Hello, everyone. This is David, and tonight's movie that we watched was Son of Godzilla. Now, this is a continuation of the island series that I was mentioning in the previous movie. This again takes place on an island, Solgil Island, where a group of scientists are conducting weather control experiments. Also, the island is home to a species of man-sized mantises, which is a problem. Thankfully, they can be chased off with gunfire, but yeah. Also, they're getting weird signals from a part of the island which infrequently cut in and out. A reporter comes to the island to check up on them, and they find this very strange, and they assign him to cooking duty. And in the middle of one of their experiments, the signal cuts up and causes a crazy radiation. It causes the last part of the thing to go haywire and cause a huge storm of a huge radioactive storm that basically cooks the island and causes the giant mantises to mutate into huge mantises, even like kaiju sized as opposed to man sized. And they find this out when they go to investigate a bunch of the different parts once the island cools enough that they can leave their shelter, basically. Also, the reporter noticed something in the distance when he was out exploring, and that is a girl that the island was thought to be uninhabited, but he saw her, so they all think he's hallucinating. So that's a thing, but it turns out there really is a girl. They find her, she steals a shirt, runs off. The giant mantises that go over to this hillside, start wrecking it. Turns out there's an egg. The egg is obviously Godzilla's son, and they start beating on the egg. Godzilla shows up at this point. They crack the egg open. It's a little tiny baby thing. I wouldn't say a Godzilla because it doesn't really look like Godzilla at this point. It's just a little like lumpy person with a tail. And the mantises, you figure, are trying to eat this thing, and that's a thing. It occurs to me I forgot to talk about the monsters in this movie. I'm sorry. I'm gonna do that right now. I'm getting out ahead of myself. So there's two monsters in this movie, new ones. Well, technically three if you count Godzilla's son, but I barely count him as a monster. So there's Kamacuras, or in the American dub, G-Mantis, which is an abbreviation for giant mantis, which can fly and have kind of like a stabby hand and a grabby claw. So that's kind of a thing. And then there's Kumunga, or Spiga in the dub, which is a giant spider. And being that the spider is a web shooter, it has the same powers as Mothra in that it can shoot web, but also it's poisonous, and it can shoot a poison dart or inject poison into monsters to kill them, and it does this to several of the mantises. So those are the new monsters we got to deal with. So that's kind of cool. Giant island monsters. Presumably, I'm guessing Kumunga is fed off of the mantises before, but who knows. So anyway, getting back to the story. So the monsters are brawling. So Godzilla fights the monsters. He comes in. He fights off two of them. One flies away. So he rescues his son and wanders off, not realizing that his son isn't following him. The Islander girl comes in, feeds him some like fruit. He likes it. Godzilla comes back, lets him ride on his tail, and they go off. Now, meanwhile, the scientists are trying to get things up and running again. It's not going so hot because a lot of their stuff's fried, and then a fever sets in. They start getting sick. Well, they quickly, the reporter quickly befriends the girl, and they move everyone into basically where she lives, which is this underground cave that opens into the sea. So it's nice and cool in there, and all the men are coming down with sickness, so they need to go to the Red Lake to get water that will fix them, because it has miracle properties apparently. So the reporter and the girl go to get the water, and they see Godzilla and his son. And first Godzilla's sleeping, and the son's playing basically jump rope with his tail. And then Godzilla wakes up, and Godzilla tries to teach him how to breathe fire, and he can only puff little like smoke rings. And Godzilla steps on his tail, and he breathes atomic fire. So that's pretty cool. And in the dub, they never name the monster, as far as I'm aware, but I believe the name they give him is Manila, which is like the worst name ever for a monster. And honestly, Manila looks kind of dopey. He has like these big eyebrows. The real problem I have with him is they tried to give him like a cuter, like a kid face. And if they gave him a more Godzilla face, I think it would have been more effective. But his face just looks so stupid that I can't take him seriously. You're really not supposed to. He's supposed to be a baby, but still. I just don't like Manila as a monster. He feels very, I don't know, tacked on. He's not really that useful. He just gets in trouble. So, anyway, so they get the water, and they're passing by where Kumonga or Spiga lives, and Kamacuras shows up, and Kamacuras fights the baby Godzilla, or Manila, and they wake up Spiga, and then they run off. Spiga's on a rampage. It chases after them. They manage to get away because they run into this like narrow area where it can't get in, but it breathes its web into there. And they originally get stuck, but they use fire to break it, and they climb out, and it follows them to the cave, and it tries to come in through the cave, and it eventually goes off on it, doing its own thing. So that's a thing. And then they're like, okay, we gotta do something about this. So they find out they start fixing stuff up, and they find out that they're sending reinforcements basically to pick them up because they hadn't heard from them in a while, which is good. And they're like, okay, we're gonna make sure this weather control works, and we got to do something about these monsters. So we're gonna try to freeze them. So they get all their gear up and working, and Kumonga is walking around, and the final battle begins with Kumonga and Manila and Kamacuras fighting, and Kamacuras and Manila get all webbed up, and Kumonga kills Kamacuras with its little injector thingy. I would normally say it's fangs, but it isn't really a fang. It's more like a thing that comes out of its mouth and stabs people or stabs things. But yeah, before it can do that to Manila, Godzilla shows up, and Godzilla and his son work together, and they kill Kumonga. And the scientists get the weather control working, and it starts snowing, and they basically get off the island on an American submarine. And it's alleged that Manila and Godzilla will hibernate, and they're kind of in each other's, like, holding each other's arms. Presumably it'll go back to normal once the weather control is no longer affecting it. Maybe in a week or so, maybe in a month. So that's a thing. So that's Son of Godzilla. This one's a lot of fun. It's a fun romp around an island. There's a lot of stuff to like here. Again, same idea. If you like island adventures, you're gonna like this movie. If you don't like island adventures, you're probably not gonna like this movie. There's a couple new monsters. All of them are relatively impressive in terms of effects. They're not guys in suits, though. I believe. Well, I'm not entirely certain how they do them, but I think they're more like marionettes. I'm not entirely certain, though. I don't know the effects. I haven't looked into it too deeply, but it always impressed me how they got the Spiga or Kumonga and the mantises to work, which I'm guessing is marionettes, but maybe not. They were at least Godzilla sized because Godzilla doesn't directly interact with them. So who knows? I'm sure you guys can figure it out if you're really interested, but it's nice to see different effects being used. And they're good for what they're worth. None of this looks really bad or terribly cheesy, so that's a thing. But yeah, this movie is very watchable. Again, I enjoy it highly, but again, that might be my nostalgia talking. I again watched this one at a young age and rather liked it. It was one of the ones I had on tape for a very long time. So you might love it. You could say this is where it starts going wrong, where Godzilla is more of a friendly. Like, he's a dad now, so now he's not the destroyer of cities and allegory for nuclear weapons. He's a happy, friendly guy that'll protect the weak from horrible monsters that show up. So he's kind of pulled a 180. He's no longer the anti-hero. He's now the hero that will save us. So he went from villain to anti-hero. Now he's full-blown hero, and that will stay basically true for the rest of the series at this point. So that's a thing. If you don't like heroic Godzilla, you can skip. You really should skip after Godzilla versus Mothra. Like, after that one, he becomes a good guy, more or less a good guy, because there's Ghidorah, and then Astro Monster, and then this one. Oh, then Sea Monster, and then this one. And those are all. He's more or less a good guy. He's helping out at least. But anyway, I'm beginning to digress here. This one's good. Watch it. Enjoy it. Love it. Definitely fine for the kiddies. There's no gore or violence. Other than that, I say check it out. Alright, folks. Good night.